I'm looking here at the market at a headline level here, guys. Not that exciting, but volume elevated versus that 10-day average.
I'm going to say the crucial moment happened about, 40 minutes ago when that headline crossed from the Wall Street Journal. I mean, Qualcomm and Intel. It's just a reminder. Friday afternoon, you think things are quiet, and then bam, again, just one headline. But, it got two stocks moving. Intel up about 3%, and you've got Qualcomm down about 3%. I know you guys have been talking about it a lot.
Yeah, I want to point out that the crucial moment was not triple witching. It seems like every quarter someone gets super psyched about expiries and nothing ever happens. When was the last time an expiry made a difference in the market?
Did you not see the massive volume we had at the cash open today? Volume was up like 222%.
True. I'm just talking about price action because when I look at my 401k, I don't care what the volume was,
Well, we're going to definitely see an impact on Palantir and Dell, for example, because they're going to be entering the index. So that's going to be something to maybe watch for next week. Maybe not today necessarily. I remember the last time there was quadruple witching and a rebalancing. We also saw the same thing, that some of the stocks that were entering the indices didn't necessarily go higher on that particular day, but they did in the days following.
We got some gains for the week, guys, right? Overall, I'm just looking at the Dow maybe up about 1.6% and the NASDAQ up about 1.5%. So overall, Fed meeting, lots of stuff.
The S&P up 1.25%. You left out the most important one. When we're talking about the indexes, and by the way, Vonnie, that is Bloomberg style. Indexes.
Indices?
No, that's not right.
Guys, the bells. They're the bells. And we made it to the end of the trading week. You're looking at S&P settling out down by about 0.2%. We're still getting through the numbers here, guys, but the NASDAQ is up by 0.4%. Tried to make a run into positive territory on that Qualcomm Intel report from the Wall Street Journal. Just couldn't hang on to it. And the Dow slightly positive. I want to put out mid caps, which hit a record high and had a record rally yesterday. Mid caps closing down by about 0.7%. The Russell 2000 underperforming, off by 1.1%. Carol.
All right, and just going back to the S&P 500 in terms of, as we dig a little bit deeper into that index, got 173 names in the S&P 500 to the upside, guys. More than 300 names losing ground. Constellation Energy, your best performing name in the S&P 500 this week, at the bottom of the pack, one we talked about last night and this morning and throughout the day. FedEx down about 11% for the
Definitely
week.
Casting a pall over this market. But if you look into the S&P 500, you'll see there's quite a lot of reds, and many of the sectors were in the red today. Not, though, down by as much as some sectors were up yesterday. So not a hugely down day. But as you can see, some of the defensive plays were lower, like, real estate, for example, that on interest rates, industrials. But you also had information technology, perhaps a little bit of profit taking before the weekend. That whole sector down just about 0.5%. And of course, let's not forget the Intel Qualcomm story towards the end of the session that definitely had a little bit of an impact, at least on certain stocks.
All right, a lot of red. Certainly, as you look at that map. What?
The IMAP. Why don't you use GRR?
Okay, there's a couple different ways you can look at the market.
Yeah.
Okay?
But we like the visual of just the colors. It's a little easier to see sometimes.
It's a really great visual.
Yeah, we don't go on your show and criticize your graphics.
He's a little difficult today. I'm just going to remind you. He's got some cold medicine.
All right, Matt. So the S&P 500 ID PWPRD was the top performer. Explain what that is to us and GRR.
Is that the utilities index?
No.
All right.
Up 2.7%
You guys
today.
take this outside. I'm going to get to some of the individual gainers,
please.
if I may. Thank you, Alix. Nike, it's up just shy of 7% in today's session, off its highs, among the top gainers in the S&P 500. We know the story, right? We talked about this yesterday, late yesterday. The company CEO, John Donahoe, he is out. They're bringing back longtime executive Elliott Hill out of retirement to really kind of help this company that's had some struggles in terms of sales. So this one, definitely an outperformer in today's session. Constellation, I mentioned, the best performing name in the S&P 500, not only in today's session, but also for the week overall. Stock up 22% today. Big story. You guys talked about it. We did. And this has to do with Constellation Energy, the owner of course, 3 Mile Island. It's going to invest $1.6 billion, reviving it, agreeing to sell, at least one of them, I should say, agreeing to sell all of the output to Microsoft. So Microsoft looking to power all of its computing needed for AI. So that was a big performer, Constellation Energy. One more, CrowdStrike, again, a top performer in the S&P and NASDAQ 100, up 8%. This company, you had an analyst coming out, BMO Capital Markets, underscoring the need for consolidation in the cybersecurity market and that the tech company will likely help lead it, specifically CrowdStrike.
Can I just say?
Yeah, please.
Constellation Energy not only has done so well, but it is the top It's the number 3 best performing stock in the S&P so far this year.
Wow.
So for the year overall.
Who would have thought?
Huge, right? Yeah. Pretty cool stuff.
That is cool, especially when you feel like energy is one of the biggest losing sectors.
They're oil.
I probably should mention Intel, too, of course, on that headline, because it's up about 3.5% here at the close.
Good flag.
Yeah.
You want to know
I would love
the losers?
Yeah.
Okay, FedEx, obviously.
We like to call them decliners.
Oh, okay. So
losers.
not losers, right? But if you're down 15% in a day, I feel like big L there. We know the story. We broke it yesterday on this program. The biggest drop in 2 years after warning that business would slow in the year ahead and also missing expectations for the quarter that was. It's an ominous sign for the direction of the U.S. economy as a bellwether. FedEx, like UPS, which said earlier this year, was hurt by a pullback on priority services as customers traded down to cheaper shipping options. And we heard about a couple of them today. On Track, apparently, is a shipper you could use.
Never heard of them.
I had never heard of it either.
But they're trying to build up.
And I think people are less concerned about getting there absolutely positively, tomorrow morning, and it could take a couple of days. Another one of the losers today is Dana. I love this company because they make probably the most famous axles in the world. If you put a Dana 44 or a Dana 60 on your rock crawler, you're definitely not going to break that differential. But they also make other propulsion
Vonnie and Alix, weren't we just talking about this company?
What language are we speaking?
Right?
Yeah. Well,
Totally. I dig my axle. Go ahead.
I believe that Alex knows about this.
She
This is the kind of thing
does.
Alex would dig into.
She totally would know.
Anyway, it's a supplier to the auto industry, and it was down after Wells Fargo downgraded the stock to underweight. So essentially a nice way of saying sell, citing expectations for falling sales in the North American heavy truck and Super Duty markets. And then Lennar shares fell the most intraday since August, which was only last month. So traders digesting fourth quarter forecasts for new orders and delivery that were short of the highest analyst expectations. So they didn't, if the market is priced to perfection, you have to do better than meet. You really have to beat.
True.
And they didn't do that. So Lennar shares down 5.33% at the close.
All right, I'm taking a look at the bond market here, guys. We all know the story. Steeper curve, steeper curve, steeper curve. That continued today. So selling all across the curve there. You have 15 basis points now, the spread between the 2 and the 10s. If you just take a look on a weekly basis, you have the 2-10 spread steepening for 5 straight weeks. We have not seen that kind of rally and consistent rally since October of 2021 within the yield market. And you're taking a look at, 15 basis points is that spread there. We're now at the highest since June of 2022, guys.
All right, guys, let's get to some of the stories popping on our radar. This one, among the most read on the Bloomberg, has to do with J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon speaking at an event in Washington, the Atlantic Festival, and basically saying he remains skeptical about a soft landing following that 50 basis points cut that we got by the Federal Reserve. And he said he wouldn't count my eggs on that outcome, although we think he means he wouldn't put all his eggs in that basket.
No, I think he means don't count your chickens.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's don't count their chickens before they hatch.
Okay, so he means something like that.
It's interesting to me because Larry Summers said essentially the same thing on Wall Street Week, which you'll see a brand new episode of Wall Street Week, brand new format for Wall Street Week tonight at 6 o'clock. But Larry told David yesterday or the day before that inflation could be a real problem, and it could keep the Fed from going as deep as it wants in terms of the terminal rate. I thought it was also interesting that Summers said the mortgage rate you're going to get right now could be the best deal you're going to get over the next 5 years.
Oh, boy.
So if you're looking to refi, at least according to Larry Summers, you might want to consider now instead of waiting.
Definitely not refining. 2.75% 30-year fix. Okay.
Flex.
Guys, I know. I'm such a jerk.
What do you guys have?
Maybe we should all just take next week off, because that's exactly what we should do if we're trying to get into Manhattan from pretty much anywhere. It is UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly. It's also Climate Week, and it's going to be a complete traffic nightmare. They're already calling it, what was it called? Like a gridlock alert days for the entire week. That sounds horrible, you guys.
We've lived it before. It's not
I know.
fun. And don't think about getting in a cab. It's all about walking or taking the subway, right? It's all about that.
It's the worst. I mean, UNGA, I prefer SantaCon. It's like the worst thing that happens in New York City.
SantaCon?
Wait, are you saying that UNGA is better than SantaCon?
I prefer SantaCon to UNGA. And SantaCon is pretty annoying as well, right?
I don't know where to go with that. At least Unga's trying to help the world.
Exactly.
So I'll take a little bit of gridlock for helping the world.
All right. Well, count yourself warned, guys. It's going to be rough in terms of traffic next week. All right. That is a wrap on this Friday. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals, we call it. The closing bell. We'll see you guys all on Monday.